Welcome to the Quota podcast. I'm Dylan Fole.
I'm Gavin Malcolm.
Our guest tonight is our good friend, BMX rider, Brian Banghart.
He is awesome. He has had some crazy adventures in Vietnam. We all grew up riding BMX together. And he just got engaged. You guys are going to love this. Enjoy. And so by the end of the day, we were both like not able to breathe, falling over from laughing, like tears coming down our face because we're just so hysterically upset from our day at work. And he was literally just laughing.
Yeah.
It's the only way to process it.
It's kind of the funny thing about life is that shitty things often are like the good stories that you tell and have good connections with people. And
Yeah.
I went to a yoga class, and so it was my first time meeting up with this girl, and it was the kookiest yoga class ever.
Was it in Rhino or?
No, it was at the Butterfly Pavilion.
Oh.
I've been
That's
before,
pretty
and it's
cool.
pretty cool. Because
Are the butterflies?
Oh, yeah, they're everywhere. And they land on you while you're doing yoga. It's rad.
Huh.
That's sick.
But this teacher, and it was really good for me because it was super chill, and my back is still
I was going to
pretty
ask you about
sore.
that, yeah.
But this lady was the kookiest yoga teacher. Like,
What's her name? Let's call her out
couldn't tell you.
to all 12 of our listeners.
I honestly couldn't tell you what her name was, but like 3/4 of the way through the hour, she's like, "We're gonna do laugh yoga now." And so she just starts laughing maniacally and rolling back and forth on her back.
Whoa.
Like fetal position rolling
yeah.
back? Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
And then everybody in the class starts doing it too, and I start laughing just because I'm like,
This is
You
insane.
guys have gone off the deep end, yeah.
and this girl that I brought is never going to talk to me again. There's no chance.
Because you invited her to the yoga.
Yes.
Yeah.
Dude, I feel like if you own it and be like, I'll be honest, that was way weirder than
Oh, I totally. And
expected.
we talked about it.
You went like, oh yeah, I come every Thursday. It was more like,
No, I came once 2 years ago, and it was not this lady.
yeah. I feel like I've done yoga very few times, but it's always been like I search YouTube for a yoga, and those people I feel like are pretty kooky. Like there's like
Yeah.
they're just in their house or off in their own universe and doing their own.
I feel like
Yoga with Tim. Allie turned me on to him.
Yoga with
He's
Tim.
good. He's like a surfer and skater.
Hmm.
I mean, yoga itself is
kooky by
spiritual,
nature.
Yeah. I mean, so there's some of that, but he's cool, dude. I think you'd like him. I try and turn as many people onto yoga.
I know.
with Tim as possible.
I've tried
Allie.
doing it with Allie once or twice, and I
Well, you don't.
I
like
can't.
Yoga, so.
I love stretching though.
Did you guys
all the
ever
other
do the
nonsense.
P90X yoga?
No, I didn't. That sounds more my style, where they're like aggressive about yoga.
Yeah, no, it was actually really good because like yoga, right? As much yoga as I've done, which is the P90X
Twice,
and maybe
yeah.
2 other times, yeah. But it was like the yoga that I normally do. It's like that I've seen people do. It's like so lazy and slow and like I mean, lazy is probably not the right word, but like
Yeah,
slow and
slow.
comfortable and like. That it never, but like P90X yoga is like you're in like some seriously uncomfortable, strenuous positions for the whole first half. So then like your body is so warmed up and loose by the second half that you can do like some crazy things that you never thought
like
was
that.
possible. Yeah, give it a
Dude,
shot.
I want to see Brian Banghart and Josh Thurman do a yoga challenge.
No, man.
I feel like you're both equally competitive. I think that's a good base. I think that's a solid idea.
No, since Dylan, you were saying that when we were in Columbia, you were always saying that you were stretching in the mornings or whatever. And so I started like every time after I take a shower, I stretch. And after I was in Vietnam, I could like go past my toes. It was crazy. My
Yeah.
back felt better every single day.
Look at that.
Nice.
I've since given that up because I've been too busy to spend the 5 minutes. But
See, that's what'll get you.
yeah,
Since we started the podcast, I stopped doing yoga with Tim, and then my back goes out bending over.
yeah.
It does make a difference.
I know, but I thought that because while I was on the trip, there was like 2 days where I didn't do it because we were running off to something or whatever. And it was like, I was like, now it's become like another addiction, like another thing that I have to do because if I don't do it, then I feel terrible that I didn't do it.
Yeah.
You know, but it's so good while it's, while you're keeping up with it. It's funny.
I've been doing it in the morning because Allie usually takes longer to wake up because I'm a psychopath. And like the moment the alarm goes off, I'm bolted upright. I've turned off the alarm before it's even rang the second chime, and I am fully awake.
You're not a snoozer.
I can be, and it's because I've married a wonderful snoozer who can just like enjoy that. I've never been my life until Allie, but
and you're gone. You can like wake up and be out of the house in like 5 to 10 minutes.
Yeah, my goal is to be out of the house in 15 minutes.
Yeah, I'm the same. When I used to work at a regular times every day, I'd get up 20 minutes before I was like on the road to work, and that's with a shower.
Yeah, same.
Insane. I'm like 2 hours. I need 2 hours.
2 hours,
dude.
in the
It's
morning.
the craziest. Because for me, it's like if I don't get moving, I'll stop. Right. So I use that time now of like Allie snoozing and me snoozing, and just like I'll set my alarm for like 6:40, but I won't really wake up till 7, kind of a thing. And I use that like time to, well, like snuggle a bit, or I'll like do yoga in bed. Not yoga, but like I'll stretch and do like several different stretches and like work on stretching my back in bed while she's like sleeping and the lights are off and it's kind of chill, and it seems to be working to like, so it's not just like this insane morning routine of just like, boom, I'm awake, let's go.
That's funny. For me, it's like all an efficiency thing. Like I'd rather sleep. Like sleep is such an important piece, and I'm like, all right, if I can sleep 10 minutes longer and then, you know, shower quicker, or, you know, like brush my teeth in the shower so I don't have to separate those things into 2 separate items. Like full efficiency. I'm in the car in 20 minutes.
We're speaking the same language.
Yeah.
I'd like to get that.
The day I cut my hair.
I love efficiency, and I'm the most inefficient in the morning as possible.
Well, yeah, you're just not even a human being until like 9 p.m. or 9 a.m. It's hilarious. Like, I've literally tried to have conversations with him in the first half hour of his morning, because I want to have conversation with everyone always.
All times.
Yeah, at all times.
Apparently, last night I just found out I had a conversation with Allie about the intricacies of FSA versus HSA health insurance. I don't know what either of those things stand for, but I was fully asleep and just
Interesting.
lecturing her on the intricacies of the two. I don't know if anything I said was right. She was like, do you actually know anything about health insurance? I was like, oh, no, not at all. She's like,
no.
oh, because we
I don't
talked
have
about it
that.
for like 20 minutes last night, and you were pretty convincing.
That's funny. If I like have a conversation, like if somebody calls me while I'm asleep, I have a full-on 10-minute phone conversation, and then I go straight back to sleep. I do not remember the conversation at all.
Yeah.
Like it's really bad. Like if somebody calls me and they're like, "Oh, you have to do this, this, and this in an hour," and I'm like, "Okay, cool."
Oh.
And then I hang up the phone, and then I wake up an hour later, and I'm just like, "Didn't ever happen."
Good to go.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's crazy.
That's why I turn my phone off at night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, see, I don't remember my dreams either.
Really?
No, I don't either.
I didn't, and then Allie, she remembers all of her dreams.
Really?
Like every
It seems
single one of
fun.
them, she can. And so she told me that one day she just chose to remember her dreams. Like she just started like, I don't know exactly how it came up, but she's like, yeah, just all of a sudden I started remembering all my dreams because I really wanted to. And then now I've been putting lavender under my nose before I go to bed, and I have insane lucid dreams like every single night. It's the funnest.
I had a buddy once when I was in like elementary school that was like, he's like, every night I go to sleep, I dream about whatever I'm thinking about before I go to bed. I'm like, that sounds like the best thing ever. If you can like create your own dreams and like have your own, but that doesn't happen for me. I'm just like, I go to sleep, I wake up 8 hours later.
Anybody.
Yeah, it's a blink.
Yeah, it was really neat. Sounded like a great time, and he remembered them too. It was, but I
remember
I
them for
heard
like
once,
30 minutes and then they disappear.
Yeah.
Which is really all you want. You want to remember it for like the awfulness of waking up. We're like, that was fun 20 minutes ago when I was dreaming, and then you get on with your day. It'd suck if you literally remembered every single one of them.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. How much do you dream at night? Is it like
They
the
say
whole
you
night?
dream every night and you just forget.
Well, right, but is it like you have one dream a night, or are you dreaming for like the whole 8 hours and then it's just all gone in the morning?
Yeah. I feel like I spend so much of my day dreaming that it's all just kind of one constant, like, that'd be fun, and then I just follow a rabbit hole. I'm like, dude, you are driving. You need to focus it up. Quit dreaming about helicopter pads.
Right.
Heck yeah. Well, today we just want to introduce you because we haven't had a chance yet. Brian Banghart, one of our longtime friends, one of the coolest people of all time, super genius, All-American. He's the greatest. Tell us a little bit about yourself so that the people who don't know you get a chance to.
I just want to say thanks for the always incredible introductions. You're very on point with every introduction I've ever had from you, whether it's about me or somebody else. Great introducer.
Dude, you've earned it.
Yeah, so about me. So I, I don't know. I grew up riding bikes and going to school, I guess, and then I got a mechanical engineering degree in college from the School of Mines. And at that point, kind of realized I didn't ever really want to work a real job, so I, went into a job where I didn't have to work 5 days a week, and I didn't make any money, but it was fun and I learned a lot. And then kind of started a company after that, always with the mindset of I want to be able to control my own life and do whatever I want, which is a lot of bike riding and traveling and that type of stuff. And so then, that's kind of about me.
I feel like there's so much more to you than meets that little synopsis. But yeah, that's a good point you brought up of BMX, I think, has kind of taught all of us to not want a job. Like, as weird as that sounds, like, all of our parents have had jobs. I guess Dylan's dad has had his machine shop, so it's more of a business than a job. But, yeah, I think each and every one of us, because of BMX and the specific crew we all grew up with, has all learned that we didn't want to work a 9-to-5 pretty much since we were a teenager.
I think BMX teaches you an interesting thing in that, like, you're able to do whatever it is that you want to do. Like, if you want to learn a trick, you can go learn a trick. If you want to go and, ride your bike 10 miles to the other skate park, like, you are fully in control of what you do. And I feel like that, for me, was really important of figuring out life, because all that same stuff is true in everything, but it starts with bikes.
Yeah, absolutely. I can relate so much of that same drive to, like, I'm a terrible employee. I'm great as a partner, terrible as an employee. Because as soon as I feel like I don't have that control of, like, I want to go 10 miles down the road to the next park or whatever that looks like in a job where I can't control my environment the way that you were talking about, of, like, you wanted to control your paycheck, you wanted to control your hours and all that stuff. I real quickly turned into a handful. Yeah. What about you, Dylan?
I don't know. I mean, I definitely feel that way, obviously, but I've never attributed it to bikes. So I guess, I mean, it does make sense. I just haven't really thought about it as far as that. I mean, definitely my dad was influence, and then I don't know how I was influenced, but yeah, I don't.
Oh, because
we're influenced by these Instagram people that don't seem to have jobs and stuff, and, like, that's what I want. But
you've always kind of just done whatever, like. You just moved to California to film stuff, or, it's not
I
like
remember as a teenager, you were one of the arguments I gave my dad of why I didn't need to go to college. I was like, look at Dylan. He's living the dream. He's living with his parents. He's got a sweet Subaru hatchback. And all we do is ride bikes. I didn't know at the time that he went to college. But
that's the joke of it all.
I was using him as an excuse, like, Dad, come on. Let's be honest with ourselves. Yeah, my grades are fine, but school's for squares.
But it worked.
Yeah, so far so good.
Yeah.
Well, and I think Yellow Design. So Brian also rides on the Yellow Design stunt team with me. That's actually how we got introduced. That really affected me as a kid because I started on the team very young. And so one of the first quote-unquote jobs I ever had where someone was basically employing me was me riding my bike to do stunt shows and be popular and famous for an hour or two and get to sign autographs and be the center of attention and do what I loved and get paid. It was not a lot of pay, But as a 14-year-old, that really shapes what you expect the rest of your life to look like.
It's a terrible way to start a career, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I remember it's funny because I was like mowing this guy's lawn, this old guy that lived up the street, just the grouchiest guy you've ever met. And I'm mowing his lawn, and he's like, I had this deal where it was like, $10 for the front yard, $15 if I do the front and the backyard. And he was like, oh, well, how about I'll give you $3 extra to do the backyard. And I'm like, I can make $45 an hour riding my bike.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need to be mowing your backyard.
Yeah.
And he was floored. I mean, he was I don't think I got to mow his lawn for like the next 3 months.
Wait, you actually told him that for real?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
No, because he was such a jerk about it. It wasn't mowing his lawn. He wanted me to chop down this tree and then like load all the logs into his truck or something for like an extra $5.
He thought he was really doing you a solid.
Yeah, and I'm like, no, like, yes, I want the work, but this is ridiculous. Like, it's going to take me 3 hours to do that. You want to pay me $5? Like, and he's like, well, when I grew up in the Depression, and I'm like, yeah, but money was different.
Man. Yeah. I remember having a very similar moment. So my dad always was really, really good about making me earn my own money. Like, ever since I think I started earning my own money and like paying for my own clothes and stuff at like 13, like really, really young. And my dad helped me make on, clip art and Word a little ad for the local like neighborhood newsletter that said, "Kid Power, I'll do whatever you need me to do. I just need money." And so I was doing everything from like cleaning horse shit out of stalls to digging post holes. I mean, literally everything you can imagine. And there was this little old lady who may or may not have been blind or like real close to blind who was probably a mile away from our house. And I would ride the tractor, the riding mower, all the way to this lady's house, mow her like half-acre lot, and then ride it all the way back. But because a riding lawnmower tops out at like 3 miles an hour, it would take me like 4 hours if you include the commute. And I remember one day being like, I'm doing this for $15. This is outrageous. My hourly is insane. And I'm not even picturing the gas that my dad is paying for to fill this thing. Because it's like a tank of gas to go do this thing. Yeah. And having the same moment of, I rode a stunt show last weekend and made $75 and got to 2 girls' numbers. Like,
right.
And
it was
money.
the most fun thing you'd ever done.
It was the best time I've ever had.
Yeah.
What am I doing? And then the first real job I ever got doing SolidWorks, I was just like crushed. I remember trying to talk myself out of it, like, yeah, it has benefits and it pays well and it's convenient and it's something I'm good at, but I don't want to because it's not getting paid to ride my bike. And my dad was like, you're going to starve. Right. I'm not going to help you.
It's not like high school anymore where you just come home.
You aren't living with me anymore, so it's up to you now.
Yeah.
So speaking of BMX, I think that's always a fun place to start off with all of our BMX friends. What's just a fun BMX story when you think of Joy Quota or like the ultimate good time riding bikes? Is there anything that comes to mind?
I think one of my favorites, and because Dylan was there, was when we went to the Dirty East Jam when we were like 16. Because this is a good story for you too, Gavin, because it was great because it was the second year that we were going, and everybody had heard about the first year, so everybody's really excited, and so we're talking to everybody, trying to get a big group together, and we've got like something like 13 people that want to go.
Crew.
Yeah, and so we're trying to figure out what vehicle we're going to take because we have no idea what we can fit 13 people into. Yeah. And then Gavin's dad is like, "Hey, I'll rent you guys a 12-passenger van, and you can take the van."
Yeah, like they would pay for it, but under my dad's name.
Yeah, because we were all 15 years old, so we couldn't rent a van. 16 years old. And so, sure enough, Gavin's dad rents the van, and then it starts. It's always like, so the contest was in Ohio, which is like a 20-hour drive from here, and it's Saturday. I think it's like Saturday and Sunday. So we drive out on Friday night, we stay there Saturday, and then we leave Sunday afternoon. It's a terrible experience from a driving perspective.
Yeah, I mean, to Ohio is 20 hours.
Yeah. Yeah, 20-hour drive each way for a day and a half actually at the place. And so so Gavin's dad signs up to provide us the vehicle. Everybody's stoked. Start going around picking everybody up, and we've got 11 of the 13 people, and I'm like, where's Gavin? When are we gonna get Gavin? And AJ's like, Gavin's not coming. I'm like, didn't Gavin's dad rent us the van? He's like, yeah, but Gavin's not able to make it on the trip.
Yeah. I'm still a little sore about that one, to be honest. So
I swear we waved him goodbye.
No, so my dad called me out of high school. He got me out of class, and we had talked that I wasn't gonna be able to make the trip. Long story short, I did really well in school, but I didn't do my homework. Call it whatever you want. I was getting 96 and above on every single test in my chemistry or biology or whatever it was, but I didn't need to take the homework. The homework was insane and took multiple hours of my BMX riding time, and I was still doing. Clearly, I knew the material, so I was like, logically, I don't need to do the homework. The homework is to practice for the test. I'm destroying these tests. I'm good to go. And as a result, I literally had a 61% in this class because everyone else in the class was the opposite. They were getting 50s on their tests, and the only thing that kept them from failing was homework. So homework was worth more. So I had a basically failing grade in this class. And this is as a kid who had never had anything but straight A's through kindergarten through 8th grade and freshman year. Now I'm sophomore year failing this class. And my dad's like, what is going on? This is unacceptable. And I couldn't get the grade up because I wouldn't do the homework. I was just too stubborn. So he was like, you don't get to go on the trip. If you don't get your grade up, I didn't get to go. And then he calls me out of class. It's Friday. I had packed a bag. He didn't know this, but I had packed this bag. He's going to cave and let me go. And he calls me out of class. I'm like, yeah, this is going to be the best. And I furiously pedal my bike all the way home because I was just down the street. And it's literally just in time for my dad to be like, all right, wave them goodbye. And AJ and Dylan and some people drove off in the van. And I was just like, I literally thought it was a joke, and they literally just never came back to the house. And then I had to go back to class. I was like, you are the biggest asshole. What a good prank. Yeah, and
Did you do your homework after that?
Fuck no. Just out of spite. I think I literally barely passed that class by the end of the year, and I got a 98 on the final. I had some very heated words for that teacher. We argued in front of the class several times. I'm sure I was super polite.
All right, let's get back to
yeah. So anywho, so then we load up the 13 people into the 12 passenger van with 13 bikes in the back and everybody's stuff. There's literally one of our buddies, Steven, was like, there was no seats left, so he had to sit on the tire hump on the side of the van.
No way.
He literally didn't even get a seat in the van.
It's so funny because I remember. Anybody that knows this podcast knows I don't remember anything, but I somehow remembered that it was Steven that got the bitch seat.
Oh, yeah. No, it's always Steven.
I can't believe it's always Steven. He's like the coolest guy. I feel like
it was something like Steven wasn't going to be able to come on the trip, but it was his birthday. He didn't have the money to come or something, but it was his birthday. So everybody's like, all right, Steven, you can come on the trip. You don't have to pay for gas, whatever.
But you're going to ride bitch
on the bump. Yeah. And
that's a BMX birthday right there.
Yeah. That's a BMX birthday. And it was, I just remember I just sitting in the van for so long, 20 hours all the way out there.
Wait,
but we did stay an extra day.
We stopped in, so I just watched this video actually really recently, a week or so ago, just because, and we stopped in St. Louis for a while.
Yeah, we had one day in St. Louis.
You did some street riding there, right?
Yeah, remember Nate got out of the car, first thing out of the car, went to go grind that handrail and smashed his face straight out of the gate. Yeah, but then we rode a lot that day in St. Louis because then we went to that park, Ramp Riders. Yep. And then we loaded up. Where did we go after St. Louis? Then I think we went to Cincinnati, right? Or Columbus. Because we went to Ray's Mountain Bike Park after the...
That was the most devastating part about hearing your trip. Because I didn't get to go, and I'd always dreamed of going to Ray's. And then Dylan gets back and is like, dude, we went to Ray's, and I got to ride all the rhythm room and all the cool parts of it. That was I could care less about the contest and all the other stuff. As soon as Dylan told me that you guys got to ride Ray's, I was devastated.
Yeah, I mean, it was for like a 3-day trip. We went to Ramp Riders. We rode the Flow for 2 days for the contest, and then we drove out to Cincinnati to ride Ray's after that. I don't think I've... Cleveland, yeah. And I don't think I've ever been so tired in my life. I remember the last day, like, trying to ride at Ray's, and I just, like, hands couldn't grab the grips. I couldn't pull my brake lever anymore, and
That's why you gotta get rid of it.
Yeah.
That wasn't even
No
the
brakes.
last. That wasn't even the last time riding though.
No,
We went to Louisville.
yeah, at
What?
2 o'clock in the
Or
morning.
2 o'clock in the morning. This
Yeah.
is a 24-hour skate park in Louisville,
Yeah,
Kentucky.
that was
And
so
we were the only ones
funny.
there, obviously, at 2 o'clock in the morning. And
Yeah.
Except, no, there were some drunks. That were,
Yeah, you
like,
remember the guy
diving
did the front flip off of the vert ramp?
Yeah, a 13-foot
What?
vert ramp, and he's just standing
was-
there drunk and just like front flips into it, and
I'm
just
assuming-
just
Like
slides out.
like a somersault. He
What?
it was the craziest thing. He did a somersault and somehow perfectly like spaced it so his feet wound up in the vert ramp so he could go
Just
straight
slide
down the ramp.
It was
What?
unbelievable.
Well, it was funny
That's
because
insane.
we were filming the whole trip, but nobody was. I don't think we were filming at that point, and he did it. He just like did it on his own out
Yeah,
on the
he
side
wasn't
of the
doing
park.
that. Like,
he
hey,
wasn't
guys,
doing this
look,
joke.
he was
No.
just like, I'm
He did it, and
feeling
we're
it.
like, oh my god, that was the most amazing thing. Is that in the video?
To be honest, I didn't finish it.
Yeah.
But, I hope it is.
Yeah, I hope so too.
I should go back and.
We'll have to watch that. Is that on YouTube?
It is. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
If you want a real good time, go back and just look up some gimmick BMX YouTube videos. It is one of my favorite things to do. Get
Yeah,
real
we'll-
amped up before a ride.
Maybe we'll find some for this video. We'll link to it.
Yeah.
It gets me real, like, of all of the videos I could watch to get pumped up, of like Brandon Lupas, like cash rolling a 90-foot dirt jump or whatever people are
Why
doing.
would that get you pumped up?
That's
As
not,
impressive as it is, that doesn't.
It's
me
not something that we're
like,
gonna do.
Watching us like
Like,
learn how to X up in real time, I'm just like, that's the best. That was the dream.
Oh man, but yeah, so many
wait,
things about
there's-
that trip.
There's some more. I think there's some more stories on this. There were.
Trey broke
The-
someone's back.
Oh, that was Steven too. That was the funniest thing. Because that was just after I had just fought AJ because he stepped on my air mattress. So everybody's all.
Oh,
He
that's worth
stepped, I was like,
fighting.
I told him, I was like, don't step on my air mattress. And of course, at this point, we'd ridden nonstop. Nobody had any sleep. And I was like,
Probably
AJ,
food either.
just don't step on my air mattress. And then he goes and he steps on my air mattress to get on the bed. And so like got up and like just started punching him. It was so funny.
Because this is 13 people in one hotel room. I believe.
Yeah. No, we couldn't
Yeah.
afford more than one room,
Right.
so we just 13 people in one hotel room. That was the craziest. And you remember the hotel right next to the skate park was like that, the Knights Inn or
Right, 'cause
whatever.
everybody, you go to this contest and everybody stays at the Knights Inn. At least back then, they probably it burned to the ground.
Yeah.
No, they don't allow
Turned
BMX
into a
riders
meth
anymore.
lab now.
Yeah.
But and so it's just havoc because this is not like X Games. This is like 5 levels below X Games.
Yeah,
Like, this
a
is
lot
the
of people having
rattiest-
fun.
The rowdiest crew you could possibly.
It was all that Swamp Fest
Gather.
energy before it had a place to go.
Yeah, exactly. It was the Swamp Fest before the Swamp Fest.
Yeah.
In Ohio.
Yeah,
And
in Ohio.
So I'm trying to think. Like we turned people's cars around or something. Like there was definitely
Yeah,
a
we
story
lifted
of,
up
like,
that guy's
we
car.
lifted up a guy's car and like flipped it around.
Yeah,
don't
because
know.
there's
That's
so
awesome.
many people. Well, I remember everybody's like playing craps in the parking lot. Like people are gambling in the parking lot. Everybody's wasted. I watched this dude punch a gutter off the side of the building. Just like, he's like, watch this. Punch it off the building. Like, oh my God.
Cool, I guess.
Yeah, right. It was complete
And then
madness.
Yeah. So Stephen, you probably remember.
Oh,
that story.
so
Go back to
yeah, so that
Stephen
was
getting body
because
slammed.
Because you guys had Trey on recently, right?
We had Trey and Viv on. We did not go into these type of stories.
Yeah, so that was funny though
Trey's
because
an intense fella.
yeah, so it was right after me and AJ fought over the air mattress, and I beat him up for sure. And then
AJ will dispute this.
yeah, we'll see how that goes. And
Rematch,
so
2019.
I've learned a
I
lot
wouldn't-
since then.
I wouldn't fuck with AJ.
Yeah. No, it was funny. It was good fun. But then I don't know what happened, but Trey and Steven were kind of like, they were like going bodies or whatever it was back then when you're like play fighting.
Yeah.
And then I think what happened is Steven got Trey in a chokehold or something like that. And Trey was just kind of playing, and then Steven got Trey in a chokehold and like really latched on because Trey's a lot bigger dude, you know. Steven was pretty proud of himself. But then...
And there was a lot of testosterone. 13 dudes in that tiny of a space. It's all competitive.
Yeah. And then so Trey just like picks him up. Picks him up off the hotel room bed and turns him to the side and just slams him to the ground.
Not the bed, the ground.
The ground, yeah. Like,
you have the video. We have to link to that.
It's though. This is like flip phone age video of like super pixelated.
Clearly filmed on a razor.
Yeah, I'll try and pull it up. It was crazy.
And if I remember right, which I don't know if I do, but it just went. Everyone was silent after that. It wasn't like, oh shit. It was just like. No.
He just killed Steven.
The tone changed for sure. And Steven just stayed there. I don't think he...
No, dude, I think it really messed up his back.
Yeah, he still talks about that
Trey's
today.
an intense fella. Like, I remember one time we were playing around at a trampoline fun place, and he wasn't paying attention, and I just, like, casually pushed him into a foam pit. And I didn't know that he was real upset about it for whatever reason. I'm looking the other way, bouncing, having a good time. And then mid-bounce, he just picks me up. Same thing, just like Undertaker's me to the back of my neck. I bite my lip. I'm like bleeding. And I'm just like, what the fuck, Trey? And he's like, yo, dude, we're even. You got me, I got you. And I'm like, we are not even, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, Trey, you don't mess with Trey. He'll come in 110% every time.
Yep. You just don't really realize how much Trey's holding back until he gets serious.
Yeah.
That's the thing, yeah.
Yeah.
So anywho, that was a fun thing. The other thing, Dylan, you remember when we had to get the hotel the second or the third night?
Right, because it was not a motel.
Yeah.
So we're trying to get 13 people into one room, and it was not a motel where you have your own door. It was a hotel. And we were on, whatever, third, fourth floor, whatever. And... So, yeah, you couldn't just walk 13 people in the front door because it's like 12 o'clock at night and there's like the...
We thought there'd be people in the hotel, but there wasn't. Dylan and I walked in to get the hotel room because we were the only white kids. That was what they said. They're like, you guys are the only white kids. You go get the hotel room. And I'm like, oh, really?
That's a good point.
So we went in there and we get the hotel room. They asked us how many people. We're like, oh, there'll be 4 of us.
Yeah.
and then we go back in the van and we're like, okay, we gotta go grab our stuff or whatever. We go back to the van. We're like, all right, there's literally no way. You have to walk past the front desk to get in. There was no
side entrance or anything.
Yeah, so then we're like, all right, we're gonna go check it out. So then we go inside. It was the funniest. I don't know if you remember this, but we go inside. We're looking around for back door. Can't find a back door. And so finally, I'm like maybe there's got to be like a fire door or something. So we go down the like emergency escape, like the stair route. Yeah. And then so I'm like, oh, nice, back door. Open the door and the fire alarm goes off. And I'm like, oh, that's not good. Shut the door and the fire alarm turns off. And I'm like, oh, all right. So then I call them and I'm like, all right, guys, you see the door on the side? Everybody line up outside the fire alarm door. And so it was funny because I remember at that point I was like, all right, I'm going to go take a shower because I know that there'll be no hot water as soon as there'll be no shower open.
That's a Banghart move.
Yeah.
He's a strategic man.
That's right. I'm
Brian
like,
Banghart.
Somebody else is going to go open the door. I'm going to go take a shower. And I remember because I was like mid-shower and I hear the fire alarm go off and then I just hear the steps. Everybody running up the 3 stories. It was so funny. And then the next morning, I don't remember what hotel or where we were. I just remember the next morning walking out past the guy with all 13 of us just like giving the wave after we have the continental breakfast on the way out of the hotel room. That was crazy. Yeah.
I feel like that is the version of like most people, or I've talked to a lot of couples where they're like, oh, our favorite time was like, we were 20 and we'd just gotten married and we were broke and we had nothing, but that was the funnest time, even though they're now like with like established careers and et cetera, et cetera. I look back at those times of BMX riding with you guys. those were the times. Like I said, I watch a gimmick BMX video and I'm like, I remember learning no-footed X-ups and doing it over my first box jump way more vividly than the first time I tail whipped something.
Yeah.
You know, like that first little bit of momentum you create in anything is so exciting and new.
It was such a funny thing because it's like trying to get 13 people to go, and you're like, all right, it's going to cost each of you $45 for this 4-day trip.
You saved exactly $45.
And you're like, dude, I don't know if I can make it. I've only got $30.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to try and get that money together so that we can go on the trip. Like,
well, yeah, like I this one I do remember when we were at the Louisville Park, and it was like towards the end of this trip, but like I had spent, I mean, like you said, we have no money. I spent all my money on a like one loaf of white bread and a stack of turkey. That was my meals.
Yeah.
Like
Doing full
I think
sandwiches.
that's what everybody did.
sandwiches.
Everybody had their own loaf of bread. Like we went to the store on the first day. Everybody got their own loaf of bread and then their one meat or peanut butter and jelly or whatever. And that's you ate that 3 times a day.
Exactly. Yeah. But I still had a decent, a 2-inch stack of turkey left, and this was my this was my meal for the rest of the trip, whether a day and a half, whatever. And earlier in the day, like going to Louisville, I honestly accidentally kicked over AJ's bag of Skittles. He had bought the world's largest bag of Skittles, a gallon-sized bag of Skittles, and I accidentally tipped it over and knocked them all over the place in the van and did not apologize.
That's a very Dylan Fall move.
And did not apologize.
Especially back in the day.
Yeah, I mean, this is when I didn't say 2 words to anybody about it.
Right.
Yeah, I'm sure you actually felt sorry, and you're like, I feel like it's not worth risking the interaction.
Right. It's not like I spilled the entire bag. I spilled a lot. I don't know. Whatever. Either way. So AJ is like just the king of like
throwing a massive tantrum.
Shots fired. AJ, come at us.
No, that's not what I was going to say. I don't know if he threw a tantrum or not. I'm sure, obviously, he got pissed. But then he remembered it. Like, he held that grudge until we got to the Louisville Park, and then he meets this stray cat.
I don't even remember this.
And he decides to feed the entire 2-inch stack of lunch meat to this stray cat.
Yeah.
That's revenge.
And he got his revenge, and I was so pissed that like I had no meal for the rest of the trip because it got fed.
All the money's gone.
I've never wanted to kill an animal in my entire life. I wanted to kill that cat so bad.
Yeah.
I was like hunting it down, just gonna kick it in the face. I did not.
When Dylan got back, that's all he would tell us about that trip. He was so angry about it. We're like, dude, how was Ohio? And he's like, fuck Ohio. I lost my lunch meat.
It's so silly now because it was $5 for the lunch meat, but when you have
when that was
zero.
all the $5 you had.
No, I remember like I got pepperoni and cheese because I always got pepperoni when I was a kid. And like I remember being so sick of pepperoni and cheese because when you eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner is a pepperoni sandwich because we can't afford to go out. Like I remember trading Freddie for a peanut butter and jelly sandwich one day and that was like the smartest thing we did was like barter between our sandwiches. But if my pepperoni got eaten, like what do you do then? Then you eat bread?
Oh, I totally remember those trips. Like so many road trips we took with Dylan and JT and Andrew were literally, if you ran out of money, like you were out. None of us had credit cards.
Yeah, nobody's helping you.
I didn't share a bank account with a parent. Like they couldn't have even wired me funds. Like there was nothing.
Right, you had the cash in your pocket. And
exactly.
That was what you had.
Like if something went wrong, you were just stuck. You didn't even have a cell phone. You were just like, all right, I'm in a new state. No money, no food. How do I get home?
Yeah.
Oh man,
that was crazy. So BMX trip. That's probably the most like BMX trip that I remember. It was nuts. The whole experience was nuts. The fact that we went The year before that, I remember the year before that we went and we took this guy's van, like super nice guy, decided he'd let us use his van, and he drove, but then we hit a deer on the way home.
What?
Yeah, like Sunday. It was like Sunday afternoon because we got the 20-hour drive home. We're like a little ways home in Illinois, and we hit a deer, and I'm like, I have to be at class on Monday morning at 7:30. Like, we've got to figure this out. Yeah, right. Like my mom's not gonna call me in. She said I have to be there. I have to be there.
Yeah, my dad didn't even let me go on the trip. I know the feeling.
Yeah. No, it's funny.
Well, speaking of, how much all of those little things meant to us back in the day, I think it's pretty cool how far we've all come. I think Brian's really got himself together in a way that most of our crew hasn't.
He's definitely the most responsible one of anybody that we know, really.
Yeah, and you've done a really good job of setting yourself up for success and taking care of that same initial drive to like, I don't want to work 9 to 5. I want to control my own income. I want to control my own hours. I want to own something instead of just work for someone. What have you been up to lately? Because I feel like you've been doing some cool stuff, and that might be something cool to share, that you've actually come quite a long ways from being concerned about, like, I have to eat pepperoni and cheese for the next 8 days.
I really get a kick out of you guys from your perspective, because my engineering friends that I went to school with, we like have dinner every couple weeks, and they've got like the exact opposite approach to me. They're like,
"What?
You are such an idiot. Like, you don't have a job. You don't do any like." Would you even go to work every day?
Stories.
It's so funny though. Like, hear you guys be like, "Oh yeah, you really like have it together," and you thought this, because I feel like it's pretty 50-50. I certainly try. I take the same strategy that I did when I was taking the shower in the bathroom while everybody's growing up. Like, I like try and think stuff forward and put it together. But I think because of BMX, I've got a risk tolerance that most engineers, like all my engineering friends, don't have that.
Yep.
So they're like,
especially growing up in the School of Mines, I can only imagine.
Yeah, they're like, you're gonna quit your real job and try and do something on your own, like. That doesn't sound like a good idea. But yeah, so what I have going on now, I guess really the main thing is I'm working on this new company doing camper trailers. So we're doing small teardrop campers, basically, trying to take the approach that everybody has to kind of minimalistic approach to life, and having a small camper that it's just about like a bed. You get a queen size mattress inside, a kitchen on the outside. You can pull it with, virtually any vehicle because it'll be so lightweight. And trying to take that to market, with an engineering mindset of trying to design everything so that it's all manufactured, like precision cut with machines, so that there's not like a lot of room for error on the hand side of things, on the fabrication side, right? Everything's kind of pre-cut, all set up to just kind of Lego block together, and then you just have to do the attachments. So hopefully we can really, provide a very high quality product with, relatively low cost, because, there's not as much labor as, a nice hand finished piece. Yeah,
which is something. So I've actually gotten to see the prototypes that Brian's worked on, and having been someone who grew up with a dad who was like real into RVing and motorhoming and all that stuff.
All right, both of us were. Actually.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. Your dad still has a sweet motorhome. I think it's a really cool idea because it makes the barrier of entry so low to be able to really enjoy camping. Well,
it's like the hybrid between RVing and tenting.
Exactly. Yeah, it's hard-sided, so your tent's not going to blow over if it's windy, and it's super easy to use. Like, you can literally be driving down the road, get tired, pull over at a rest stop, and sleep for 8 hours in the back in like the comfort of your home. There's cell phone chargers and a TV and like a comfortable bed. Like, you don't have to set up a tent. It's all there.
Which is someone who's spent plenty of time like crazy tent camping and RVing. They've both been such a nightmare versus this seems like a really good solution where it kind of eliminates the hassles of either. Where RVing, it would take 2 days of preparation to get the RV ready to go on the trip, and then 2 days once you got home to like get everything cleaned out and ready for the next trip. Or it was going to be even worse when you tried to leave for the next trip versus it's literally just clean the sheets, make sure that the water's empty, and you're done with this new idea. I think it's an awesome idea. We're excited to try it out in the sand dunes this summer, and real fired up.
One RV trip that stands out in my mind. When I say RVs, I'm not talking these like $100,000 buses RVs that people have. Like, don't get us wrong with that. Ours was like a 1983 Winnebago something, or not even Winnebago. Winnebago's name brand. We were like off-brand Winnebago.
Yeah, it was
whatever.
Wannabago. Yeah,
Wannabago.
Yeah, Wannabago. That's better. So, and I wasn't even a kid at this point. I was 18 or 20 years old. We go to this lake. We pull into the campground, and everybody's kind of like, oh, I kind of smell gas. That's weird. My dad gets out, looks, and then just bursts in the door. We're leaking gas. Everybody run! And we just bolt out of this RV just as far away as we can get. In front of, like, there's 100 people in this campground just staring at us as we run from this RV that's leaking gas. And then my dad, like, creeps over and, you know, probably duct tapes the leak, and we're good to go. And we stayed the weekend and had a blast. But so that's our being. And then this is a new thing that maybe doesn't have that.
Yeah. I remember as a kid, I didn't realize RVing meant you knew you were going to get to your destination. Because our RV was so bad that we would always end up broken down. Yeah. Our motorhome was used as the tow car for a drag racer.
Oh, yeah.
And my dad spent an entire winter, like, working on this thing with me. And I remember when we finally gave up on this motorhome, it had been years of breaking down on the side of the road, et cetera, and we'd never made it more than 5 miles from our house. On the last trip, we didn't make it 5 miles from the house before thing was fully broken, just parked in a Target parking lot. Actually, not even a Target, a Kmart. That's how old this was. And, just realizing, like, man, I don't think I want an RV anymore. This is kind of a terrible gig.
Well, that's really fortunate that you only made it that far, because we would always go to these lakes that are, like, middle of nowhere, Kansas, basically. and inevitably, they would break down, like, in the literal middle of nowhere. And so we're in, like, Burlington, Colorado, population 900 people, and need to find a fan belt. Whatever. And
some obscure motor.
We always did, but like that all the time. It would.
Yeah.
And it would only break down after like 300 miles of driving.
When you're way out.
You're nothing.
See, I feel like that goes back to the whole risk tolerance. I think joy...
My dad is probably the most risk tolerant person I could even
So that's where you get it from.
I think that like,
right,
joy...
I'm just taking it a bit farther, but...
Yeah.
That, absolutely.
I think joy, like, the ability to experience joy and the ability to adapt to risk are completely eye and eye. Like, the better you are at coping with adverse situations and like dealing with risk, the more likely it is that you are going to fill yourself up with joy, because joy is always on the other side of the unknown, and that means taking a risk. Like, I remember my dad told me a story, his favorite story of that camper. He broke down in the middle of Moab on a mountain pass driving this giant motorhome, and he just freaking monstered this thing down the mountain pass. No power steering, no brakes, like, just monstered this motorhome all the way down the pass. I'm pretty sure with a trailer. No, not with a trailer, but that was a different no brakes, no power situation for my dad on the mountain pass. But he tells that story as if it was literally the greatest moment of his life. And I think that is such a key attributing factor to joy, is like, for him, that really is such a moment of joy and of pride and like, wow, what that was a moment I was alive instead of that was the worst experience of my life.
See, it's funny you say that because Jackie, my fiance, she's like her whole thing. She makes fun of me all the time because she's like, you can't have a good time unless it was terrible. Like, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I mean, going through terrible experiences is part of having a good time. She's like, unless it's raining and wind and it was 12 miles rather than 4 miles, like you're not having a good time. And I'm like, well, that's not all of it, but
That's
yeah,
the
like if
interesting
you
part.
get through the experience, like there's a lot of happiness to that, you know? Like there's one time with my Jeep, my buddy Patrick and I built this Jeep and we were, you know, it's all completely, we built all of it. We've got like this, it's the sketchiest little thing to make the motor run because the motor's out of like a 96 Camaro that has an anti-theft system. And so we, not wanting to pay for a real computer retune, we just like built this sketchy little circuit that tricks the computer into thinking that it has the right key.
Yeah.
And so we're out like, I don't know, 5 miles on this Jeep road, like not a crazy road, but just like a fun
off-road
mountain.
trail.
Yeah, a fun mountain road. And I shut it off to like take some pictures of the like super nice scenery that was going on. And then we go to get back in the Jeep and try and start it and it doesn't start. And we're like, and I'm like, I know exactly what the problem is. That sketchy little circuit that we built probably fried. And you can look at it, and there was like one little melted piece on the circuit board.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, this melted,
Who's
like
got some
it doesn't
gum
start
wrappers
anymore.
we can short this with.
So we had to like, so we're basically like, all right, well, I guess we have to leave it here. We're 5 miles out on the trail, and we've got like 50 pounds of tools, probably 100 pounds of tools. So we're not about to leave the tools in the Jeep.
No.
So we've got like luckily we had taken one bag, like a backpack, and filled it with tools. And then we had like another like toolbox where the handle, of course, was broken off. So we had to carry the 150-pound backpack and the other 50-pound toolbox all the way the 5 miles back to the truck so that we could drive home and go to Radio Shack the next day and get another little shitty circuit board and then walk all the way back out there and hope to God that was actually the problem. Yeah, put it back into the circuit board and fired right up. I was like, oh my God. First thing we did when we got home, at least we learned a lesson, you know, we got home, sent that thing off to be retuned for $100, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think anyone who wasn't watching via YouTube and couldn't see Brian's face while he told that story, ear to ear grins.
It was a great time. I mean, it was a terrible experience.
But it's such a good story.
It was a terrible and that's a lot of what Jeeping's about, is going out and having a really terrible, hard time. But at least you made it home, you know? Like you made it back, so it's all right.
I was telling my wife, Allie, about what a horrible, horrible day I had today at my job site, and she used to do some of what we did of like, because we all kind of took a step back and we were cleaning a job site today, and it was just a train wreck, and everything that went wrong could have gone wrong, and it was just a terrible, terrible mess. And Allie's listening to the story, and halfway through me telling it, she's just like, why do I wish I was there today? Why do I wish I was a part of the gang? Like, why do I wish I was going through this horrible experience with you right now? I'm like, because that's what life, that's where like the real moments of life are when you're really testing yourself and you're in this crazy, wild experience. I'm such a big believer that joy isn't something that happens because there isn't a good time. It's because of how you reacted to a bad time. Or like a bad experience or like a bad situation.
There's a balance.
There's a balance.
Yeah. If everything sucks, it's pretty tough. But yeah, I think a lot of it is just how you choose to react to it.
No, I've got to tell this story just because of the timing of everything. So I just recently bought a house it was a hoarder house. So it was all full of everything. I haven't even told you guys about this yet. So there was like this funky smell in the basement, and we couldn't really figure out what it was. Like maybe it was a dead animal, maybe it was cigarette smoke over so many years. Like who really knows what it was? But we had this section of the house that was like this 1/4-inch drywall with popcorn ceilings and gold flake in it, like literally gold flake. And my fiance Jackie hates popcorn ceilings, so she's like, on this mission to take down all the popcorn ceilings. I'm like, all right, that's your job then. You can take down the popcorn ceilings. And so she...
a true romantic.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, you want it done, then you do it. And so she's like, all right, I'll take him down. And so she's down there, and she pulls down like the first panel of popcorn ceilings, and mouse poop just rains down from the top of the ceilings.
Oh no.
So she comes and because I was working upstairs on something else, and she comes and gets me. She's like, come and look at this. And I look, and you can just see the little mouse poops everywhere up there, but you can't like see how much, because it's like dark. There's just a little section open up. I'm like, well, it's a good thing we're taking it out, like we don't want that stuff up there.
It's a good thing you're taking it out.
It's a good thing. That was my words for sure. And so then I'm like, all right, well, put on the mask, put on the goggles, and get after it. And so she got up there, and like it was insane. I've never seen so much mouse poop in my life. She like pulled down half the drywall, and it just like the whole section slid down. It's just like,
oh
yeah, disgusting. And so, but at the end of it, we got to tell that story to somebody else later that day, and they laughed about it, and we laughed about it. She had a terrible time at the time.
But even her telling the story about how terrible it was,
yep, she was laughing. She was still smiling. Yeah, you guys will get to hear it, and so it'll be fun to see how this story goes into the future, because that was 3 days ago.
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago. I think that's such a cool moment, because also that room that you're speaking of is going to be your bedroom.
Yeah.
I honestly think is hilarious.
It was when we originally talked about it.
Yeah. Which I think is hilarious, because if it worked and there's no more smell and all that stuff, every time you go to bed, you're both going to lay down, stare at that ceiling, and at least chuckle once of like, ha, that was awful. And then go to bed with a smile on your face.
Yep, for sure.
Man, I feel like there's so many cool things we could talk about.
Can we talk about this trophy?
Yeah, you're the guest. It's up to you. What would you like to talk about that trophy?
Whose trophy is it?
Don't know.
Tommy Williams, Black Belt Classic.
Yeah, Tommy Dubs.
Classic.
So for those of you who are just listening, there's every single episode. This has always been here.
It's a karate trophy that sits on our table, and we don't.
But what they haven't,
we just don't address it.
What they haven't said about it is it's a let's see here, Tommy Williams Black Belt Classic, but it says "Here comes the dick punch"
Sharpied on it, yeah,
on the top of the trophy,
and it's covered in cheesy flames.
We share the podcast studio with another podcast that does.
They're a bit more rowdy than us.
Are their names Tommy Williams?
Neither of them.
I know him as Tommy Lee, but.
Ooh,
no,
maybe.
No, I don't know. Okay. I think it was a.
You really talked yourself into a corner there for a second.
Let's restart here. Gavin, where'd you get that trophy from?
So, believe it or not, my dad is actually a second-degree black belt in Taekwondo. True story. And when I was a little kid, I got into it. And, of course, I was incredible. And there we are. It's a contest. They're not called
a dick punch
contests.
contest.
And it's really a form competition is what it's called. And
the person I was thinking of was Tony Lee, so I feel like a real idiot. But,
true story, though, my dad is actually a second-degree black belt.
So why'd you get the trophy?
I got the trophy because I beat up my dad, and I stole the trophy from him. That's why I said, here comes the dick punch, because that's how I got it from him. He just won it, and then moments later, I punched him in the wiener.
Punched him.
Yeah.
There you go.
Dude,
all right.
In all honesty, if I can get the photo so we can put it on this podcast, there is a photo of my dad right after he broke bricks for his second black belt. It was like a true hilarious moment where he blocked out the whole crowd. He blocked out all the judgment that anyone might give him. And he just starts pacing back and forth behind the bricks. And keep in mind, there's probably a couple hundred people in the stands because there's like 100 people testing out for their black belts. So all their families there. And everyone's being very composed and trying to show what a mature person they are. My dad, he had like recently turned 58 or 60, something like that. and he is literally WWFing in the back, just shadow boxing and just flexing for no one and getting so hyped up and like just out of his mind jacked. He looked like Macho Man Randy Savage in the background, just going insane. And then they finally call him up to his like multiple sets of bricks that he had to punch through, and they call his name, and he just screams like this primal yell into the auditorium of some terrible high school, and he's just like, ah! For like as long as he can, and punches through it, and then just holds up his fist and just flexes for everyone to watch. It is someplace in the world. There's a photo just after he got done flexing for everyone, where you can see like all the veins in his neck, and he's just like so hyped on himself. Yeah, hopefully one day we'll get him on the podcast.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Anyone who's met my dad and then they've also met me is like, oh, I see what happened.
Yeah. It all makes a lot of sense now.
All right, I want to hear about Vietnam. Brian just got back from 3 weeks in Vietnam, and we have not gotten to talk about that yet today.
It's an elephant in the room.
Yeah. Is there anything specific that you want to know about Vietnam, or?
I mean, did you have a good time?
Yeah, absolutely. No, Vietnam is awesome. They, the people are super friendly. You know, it's a really interesting culture because their history over the last 100 years is just like bonkers. Like they were French, and then they're freed from the French, and then they had their civil war that the United States was involved with, and then they were communists for 10 years, and that just ended like in 1985. So it's like like most people's parents actually lived through being communist, and like, you know,
and through a civil war.
Yeah,
both.
And through yeah. No, it's insane. So it's like a whole, like, if you think about like capitalism just starting 35 years ago, like that's kind of what's going on there. So it's madness. A lot of people are still like figuring out what's going on.
But there's a ton of opportunity.
They were like the fastest growing economy for like 10, like in the whole world, like 10 of the last 35 years. Yeah, because there's just, I mean, there's so much opportunity. Because the people are like super hardworking people. They just, you know, it's like everybody is out to start a business or, you know, do something to bring themselves or their family some income. And so it was really cool to see how everybody was kind of figuring it all out.
Who did you go with?
I went with my mom.
Don't you do that pretty regularly?
Yeah, so my mom is a big traveler. It was funny, like, I had never left the country until I was like 16 years old, and my grandpa wanted to give me a graduation present. So he, and it was my graduation present, but my mom had always wanted to go to Africa since she was a kid. And so we went to Africa for my graduation present. Yeah, which...
Hey, that beats the hell out of mine.
Yeah, no, certainly not complaining.
I actually I used the money I got from graduation to buy my first BMX bike. So that was important to me.
That's pretty
Probably
good.
The best
Yeah.
ever.
Africa sounds pretty sweet.
But yeah, so we went to Africa, which was absolutely insane. Like Kenya, Tanzania, it was nuts, in Rwanda. Yeah, but those places are so much different than the United States, just completely.
Yeah.
But anyway, ever since then, we've traveled like, you know, once a year, every other year, we go to some crazy place. You know, it's great for me to be able to just kind of ride along through this journey of her wanting to travel everywhere. So it's been cool.
So tell us a little bit about Vietnam, because we've never been.
Stuff did you do?
Yeah, so Vietnam is, you know, it's nuts. It's crazy because, well, so many things. Like the driving, you know, everybody always likes to talk about the driving. The driving in Vietnam is insane. I would say like 90% of the vehicles on the road are Vespas. Like they're not allowed to have motorcycles over like 100 cc or something. So everybody's literally driving a Vespa or a motorcycle that's actually a Vespa, but it looks kind of like a motorcycle. Yeah.
They do that where they make them look cool, but then put 100cc.
100cc motor. Yeah. So that's what everybody, like 90% of people are on that. It's really interesting because 90% of people are driving those. Then there's like there's 100% tax on cars. Like if you want to drive an actual vehicle, it costs double. Plus, you have to import it from somewhere. So, like, you want to buy a crappy $2,000 car from the U.S., you pay $2,000 for the car, another $2,000 at least to get it to Vietnam.
Whoa.
Then you pay another $2,000 on top of that for the tax. So you've got a $6,000 crappy car in an economy where people are making, like, on average $200 a month. And so there's nobody that buys crappy cars. So you have 90% of the economy driving Vespas, and then the other 10% are like Porsches and Mercedes and like super nice cars. And then you have the taxis that are like the tourist taxis that are like SUVs, like RAV4s or
Like what you guys probably
4Runner.
rented.
Yeah, what we were in most of the time.
I'm surprised you didn't go for a Vespa.
No, I
want to go
certainly
to
did.
Vietnam and specifically rent a Vespa the whole time.
Oh
But
yeah, yeah,
But that's such a cliche to rent a motorcycle and drive the length of Vietnam.
yeah.
I think it would be fun.
You've got to do it. Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
why
it would
w-
be awesome.
It's cliche because it
No,
sounds
I mean,
awesome.
my mom is not trying to ride a Vespa the length of Vietnam.
That's
Like that was not her agenda on the trip. So, we had a nice we had a car. We rented a Vespa for a day and cruised around in it. But so yeah, the driving is nuts.
One Vespa, or you each had your own?
Oh, one Vespa.
That's my favorite.
No. So
Who rode on the back?
One Vespa.
I need to know this.
I'm clearly the driver.
Oh.
So no, it's crazy because each family typically has one Vespa. So it's super common to see the father driving, 2 kids in the center, and the mom on the back of the Vespa.
Wow.
4
Right.
people loaded up. Like super
I think
common.
we've all seen the photos, and
Yeah.
even more so where they're like holding 98 pounds of shit.
Yeah,
that,
they've got
Yeah.
like 8
Yeah.
4x8 sheets of plywood on their
Yeah.
Vespa
Yep.
somehow.
Yep. No, I mean we saw like all sort from stuff like that to the biggest. There are 2 things that I got a really big kick out of as far as the Vespas go. So the first thing was, so rather than like, since nobody has cars, they build trailers for their Vespas. So they'll have a trailer
way.
filled up with like brick, like
And it's just
4
going
feet
mile
by
an
6
hour?
feet by 2 feet tall of brick. Yeah, cruising, or they'll be going downhill like 55 miles an
Oh
hour.
my god.
Yeah, right, with a trailer full of brick, and
What?
that's like, but nobody's concerned about it. Nobody's worried about it. It's awesome. But the second that
What
was
kind of brakes do you have on your Vespa?
right. No,
I
it's
can't
awesome.
imagine
They've got a
that. Yeah.
huge runway at the end of slow down. Yeah, so that's really fun. And then when they cut down trees, because they've got tons of vegetation down there. So when they cut down trees, they just tie the tree to the back of the Vespa and then drag it through the streets like that.
No.
So there's like a 30-foot tree dragging behind this guy's Vespa as he's like shooting down the road. It was.
Is he going to like build somebody's house with that, or do
Well, I don't know.
It could
It's
be
hard to say.
anything.
They're doing a lot of clearing, to like make more room for crops and stuff like that. So, but like really, yeah, they've cut down a ton of trees for both building their houses and for clearing for food. But yeah, hilarious
wild.
watching some guy drive his Vespa 30 feet of tree, just like. So he like takes a corner and it like hits the house to knock the tree over to like get out. It's so funny. But like the people there
people
were
standing on sidewalks, just
Just
get
jump
people-
roping
getting
it?
out of the way.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just
pretty
double
jump
dutching
roping,
it.
right? Whatever. I mean, it's just kind of like whatever needs to happen happens. It's like I got to get my tree from point A to point B. So
Deal
this
with
is
it,
the only
everyone.
option. Yeah.
I love that. It feels so wild, wild west.
It is. It's so much like every part of it is like, it's kind of like, like I feel like us as BMXers kind of take that approach to anything. It's like you need to get something done, so you do it, whatever it takes.
Yeah,
you know?
that pallet's basically a landing.
Yeah, right, exactly. And they're just doing that with their whole, economy. and
I love
government.
it. I really want to go travel a bunch of countries kind of over in Asia.
Yeah.
Dylan went to Colombia, and that sounds awesome.
Well, the Philippines is kind of what I think of it.
That's
as
a big stop for me.
Somewhat similar as like.
Yeah.
I think cars were more common, but in the countryside there were Vespas a lot. But then there's these like shacks, it's like a 4x8 foot shack, like smaller than the size of this room, with metal siding and whatever. And it's the house of some guy, but he has a satellite dish on top of it, so we can watch TV.
Yeah.
Dude, gotta get that soccer game, dude. World Cup's not gonna watch itself.
Actually, in Philippines, it's basketball.
What?
Really?
It's
Basketball.
Of all of the countries, Philippines.
Yeah, I don't know if there's many professional players.
There
because
can't be
they're
any.
kind of smaller.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Wow.
basketball. They probably have their own leagues and stuff too. But yeah, basketball.
We should all go be professional
That's interesting.
Filipino basketball
not
players.
Filipino though, so and
Yeah.
how about basketball.
But
That's
we're
true.
taller.
But, so yeah, was there things like that you noticed?
Yeah, so like I guess it was really interesting because they've done an incredible, they've really like, for when at the same time you have people dragging around their trees with Vespas, like everybody's got a cell phone with the internet. You know, it's like they're very well, there's like power everywhere. And it like fairly reliable power as far as I could tell. And like for me, I got an internet package on my phone, right? Like I got a SIM card when I was there. It was like $6 for 60 gigabytes for 30 days.
Suck it, Verizon.
Jesus.
I know. I mean
What?
I couldn't believe it, and that included some talk and text too. But 60 gigabytes
Never texted me back.
for
That's
$6. Yeah. Well, sorry, bud. you didn't have my Vietnamese phone
Yeah,
number.
exactly.
But you lost your phone. You said.
cool. No, I
Yeah,
was just teasing.
so-
I don't think I actually texted him.
No, and I did. My phone, it was such a bummer. So we were going on this boat trip in Ninh Bình. Highly recommend Ninh Bình. It's like these really cool, super steep mountains. Like they're like little, like cones kind of sticking out of the ground almost. And there's just like this really nice, quaint river that goes through it all. And so they don't allow any motorboats on the river. So it's like a hand paddle. They got all the local people, like they buy a boat and then
Yeah.
they get a boat there. And then, I mean, it's fairly touristy because it's so awesome. But you like go and you get on their boat, and then like one of the local people paddles you out through this section. And it's like a 2-hour long trip. And, you know, on a little boat, it's like there's like max of 5 people on the boat or whatever.
Oh, wow. So a real small boat.
Yeah, real small. It's funny because it's a max of 5 people for foreigners, but like 10 people if you're Vietnamese. They actually like make that differentiation. If you want 10 people and you're Vietnamese, you can do that, but only 5 foreigners
That's
are allowed.
hilarious.
Yeah, it's so well. Vietnamese
It
people
makes
are also
sense.
about half the size of me.
One, they're
Yeah.
used to driving a 4x8 sheet of plywood on their Vespa versus we're like, I feel kind of cramped in the Escape, so I'm going to go ahead and get the Escalade.
The Escalade.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, for sure. But so we get on the boat. Like forecast looks pretty good. It's a little cloudy. We get on the boat and I'm like taking these pictures because it's an incredible scenery, just gorgeous. And I'm like taking pictures, and then you can like hear this rumbling in the distance, and then it's getting closer and closer and closer, and then it just starts monsooning, like so much rain. I couldn't believe it. So like put my phone in my rain jacket, and I'm like, well, I hope that's good enough, you know. And then of course at some point I had to take a picture of whatever it was, so I got my phone out, took a quick picture when the rain had kind of slowed down. But it basically monsooned for 2 hours nonstop while we're on this boat with no cover. So the only time, like, we would go through these caves, these really cool caves, and so there's no
Sounds
rain.
awesome.
It was incredible. And it was like, it's so reasonable. It was like a $10 boat ride.
Yeah.
And it
You know.
wasn't filling with water during this monsoon, or were they?
Yeah,
filling
no,
up
he
with-
had a bucket where he was dumping
Only
the-
so the guy who's paddling is also
he's
bailing
paddling
out
and
the-
also bailing the water out. Yeah, at the same
Hard
time.
readable. Hard.
I feel like as a
Yeah,
crew member,
they
you
are.
could have offered your services as a
Well,
hardy
I didn't
young
even
lad.
really realize because I was at the front. I was like in the front seat looking for, and
Oh.
it's not like you can move a lot because the boat
so small,
moves a
so
lot.
rickety,
Yeah. So you got to be careful. But yeah, and then
Excuses, Banghart.
right, no, should have moved to the back. But yeah, so it was awesome. I got some great photos, but then my phone absorbed a lot of moisture. And so I didn't have a phone for the rest of the trip. That was like day 4 of the trip.
Were you able to save the photos?
I got those photos. Yeah, those photos all uploaded to the cloud or whatever. But
Wow.
yeah, so I used my mom's phone on and off, and then my camera. And eventually, my phone turned back on about 7 days later. Phone came back on, but the camera was toast.
Yeah.
Didn't work anymore.
That's
but-
awesome. That sounds like
It was a good
such
time.
a cool trip. I really like. So Allie and I just missed a trip to go to Mexico, and we have chosen to look at this as a real blessing because we want to go to like the Philippines or to. We've been looking at the Galapagos or just some different places that we
Yeah.
would normally never go to because we were just going to go to Mexico for a wedding, which the wedding would have been awesome, but we've been to Mexico. Like, I'm kind of over that. So now it's kind of an opportunity, carte blanche, to just go nuts.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the people in Vietnam were so friendly. It was incredible. Like, everybody's super friendly. People, like, park their motorcycle downtown with the keys in it. Just, like,
Yeah.
not even worried about no theft,
I
nothing
feel like that's
that.
like an Asian culture thing. My stepsister lived in Japan, and she's like, I never once saw a bike lock.
Yeah.
Everyone there commutes on bike, and
Right.
not once did she see a bike lock.
That's pretty cool.
No,
Versus
and
we locked our bikes in Australia, and they still got stolen.
Right. Yeah, no, but it's interesting. That's a big difference between like Mexico and Vietnam is like people in Vietnam are super stoked to have tourists and and just like in general really excited about that, where I feel like people in Mexico are a little burnt out on
Yeah,
On
I
the-
would be.
I mean, when we talk about this wall, like,
yeah.
constantly, like,
Yeah.
yeah, of course you're going to get
Right.
sick of us.
There's just a lot of tension
Deserve
there.
it. Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah. So no, that was awesome. Let's see.
I've heard the food is unbelievable there. Did you
It's
experience that?
really interesting. So the north and the south of Vietnam are completely different places. Like
Really?
they had, well, it was a civil war that
I
the U.S. got
remember this,
involved with,
obviously.
and they still maintain a pretty heavy. I'm North
I didn't
Vietnamese
know
or I'm
that.
South. Yeah, I didn't either. But when you talk to some of the people from North Vietnam, they're like, I'm not going to the South. Like, I don't like. We talked to one of our tour guides was like, she had been to Cambodia, she'd been to Thailand, she'd been to Japan. She's like, I won't go to North Vietnam. Those people aren't very nice. I'm like,
Whoa.
that's crazy because they are. You should meet them.
I was just hanging
I
out with
was
them.
just there.
They're pretty cool.
Yeah.
They're almost the same as you, it turns out.
Exactly.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
No, it was really interesting, but so the food is different as well. So like in North Vietnam, it's all like super local. Everybody's got a garden. Like most of the places that you stay, they go to the market, they buy onions, bell peppers, some bamboo shoots, lemongrass, and then they'll cook it with whatever meat you want and add a little bit of salt and pepper.
Dog,
Yeah.
kitty cat.
Yeah, so we'll get to that in a second.
Ah, yes, I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. I knew
Yeah.
it.
So, but yeah, it's super simple food. It's all like you can go out to your garden, pick the food, and then make it in your kitchen. Like
Okay.
it's very straightforward. Whereas in South Vietnam, it's a little bit more crazy. Like they've got like some more interesting curries, a lot more spice, like a lot more going on in the food. I would say it was much tastier, but my stomach agreed much more with the stuff of North Vietnam that just came, straight out of the garden. But the food, it was incredible. Like I've never been so happy to eat. Like I feel like on some trips, like I'm like, 2 weeks into the trip, I'm like, I could really use a piece of pizza or a hamburger or something to kind of bridge this gap. But in Vietnam, it was like I was having pho every morning for breakfast, and throughout the rest, I never.
I think it's a hearty
wanted any-
breakfast. I'll
Pho.
carry you through most of the day.
Yeah, no, it's that's what they eat. Pho is actually not a dinner item in Vietnam. They don't have pho. They think you're ridiculous if you want pho for dinner in Vietnam.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, it's a breakfast item.
I'm just not the biggest fan of soups. in
Yeah,
general.
I
Yeah,
couldn't do
I'm
it.
not
I
either.
couldn't do
I
it.
really don't like it. But like in the morning, it's kind of nice because it's like not super aggressive. It's
Okay.
it's like nice and easy to eat and warm, and
Yeah,
It was
I mean,
good.
I'm down.
it was.
That's something I'm getting a lot better at as an adult. I was a very picky eater as a kid. Now as an adult, I learned this from my friend Nicole. You have to at least take a no thank you bite. You have to at least take a
You have to
bite
at least try
to
it.
really be like, honestly, no thank you. Like, there's no getting out of the no thank you bite now, for me anyways, where I'm like,
No,
like,
that's totally
That's a
fair.
I've
That's
had
a very
people
fair-
like make
yeah.
homemade meals where I know I don't like any of the ingredients, and I'm just like, you're gonna at least try it. And sometimes it's amazing, and I'm like, just pretend you don't know what's in this, because this
Right.
is delicious. So I feel like that's such a cool experience to go eat pho in the morning. And what was like the craziest thing you ate out there?
I don't think I really ate too crazy stuff. We had like some duck and nut. So the really interesting thing about Vietnam, so, you know, in 1985, they were still communist. They were still a communist country, and that was when the communism all kind of fell to pieces and they were kind of becoming capitalist. And that's basically because there wasn't enough food to feed all the people. And so that's why Vietnamese people eat everything. Like, they literally eat everything. Dogs, cats, animals. So I asked my guide one time, I was like, you know, what's your favorite food? What do you really like? Because he'd been telling me about all the different crazy stuff that they ate. And he's like, there's this eel that grows only in the rice fields. He's like, it's so good. I'm like, you are out your mind. I would not. Like, an eel in a rice field is... And then so we're driving down the road a little bit after that, and there's like a bucket, like a gallon and a half bucket, literally completely full with eels, and they're all still alive in there. Like, you can see them moving around, but they're like, there's literally, you couldn't squish another eel into there.
Oh my God.
He's like, that's it, that's the eel. They're like, you want to get some? I'm like, no way am I eating rice field eel. Like, oh.
Do they just bite into it, like, or is it like you cook it?
I think I don't know about the eel specifically, but then we were talking about they have like a lot of really nice silk stuff there, and they're like, oh yeah, you know, we get the silkworm, we make the silk, this is how we draw it out, and then you eat the silkworm. The silkworms are delicious. And I'm like, you eat the silkworm? Why would you eat the silkworm?
Did you try one?
No, it wasn't like an offer. But I certainly would not have tried a silkworm.
You wouldn't have at least taken a no thank you bite of a silkworm in their own country?
I probably would have. But I certainly have lines. Like, I'm not going to eat dog.
I probably...
So by the time this airs, I'll probably be very close to being in China. And I'm... Like, I haven't really thought much about it, but... There's going to be... Like... Because, like you say, the no thank you... I'm not great at saying, like, especially with the friend I'm going with, we're not real good at saying no. We kind of just
you two together is a real concoction.
And so
is this Alex? Yeah.
And so the amount of gross stuff that we're probably going to, because like
it's probably
I have to
delicious.
prove that I'm better than him. Like, I mean, it's the same competition that Gavin and I have of like. Who will go the farthest? Like, who will eat that silkworm? Who will eat that eel? And if I can, I mean, he's going for the X Games, so if I can prove that I'm
gnarlier in any way
than this X Games dude by eating the stupid eel, then I'm going to have to do it. And I'm probably going to get real sick many times.
Your body is like a microchip. If a grain of sand gets into the microchip, it crashes for sure. No. So I'm curious.
My stomach is fairly strong. Like, especially, you know, I've learned to take care of it and eat the right supplements and probiotics. Like,
I feel like that was
Colombia, I was totally good. We were eating street food and that nothing happened. Philippines, I never got sick. I got destroyed otherwise, but...
Yeah, other than an arm infection, you were good to go.
Yeah, my stomach was
trip
fine
to the hospital, Yeah. Dude. No, I mean, Vietnam was, like, the food was... I didn't get sick at all. It was... But, so they do have, like, dog restaurants. So they've really westernized as far as the food goes, but they still keep their roots, you know? Like, they'll have... You know, like in the country, you can buy the rice field eels or... You know, the silkworms probably. But they also have like a dog restaurant where you can go and like get
McDoggles.
What's the logo for the dog restaurant? Is there literally a puppy on there?
Who knows, man? Cover? Probably. They weren't like ashamed of it.
I don't think that they're...
It's part of the culture,
I just
you know?
heard a very interesting and compelling argument that I'm not going to get into for like Americans adopting that culture of like, if it's food, it's food. Let's just go for it because there's so much food waste in America and there's so many like
but I don't think that helps food waste by eating
dogs.
No.
So the idea is you have to produce less food because like there's all these like kill shelters and stuff. It's a pretty wild argument, but we won't get into it.
Okay, good.
Yeah, that's probably we don't want that
yeah.
one.
It's an interesting argument. This is the wrong podcast to listen to if you want to get into it, but it is an interesting argument. So speaking of that competitive nature, I think that we three have a fairly competitive nature when it comes to doing awesome adventurous stuff, and like we're always kind of trying to one up each other. Is it just me, or do you think that only comes from BMX? Like, I'm only competitive against like Dylan, JT, Banghart, the guys that Trey, like the guys I grew up riding BMX with. Like, if someone else is beating me at something, I genuinely don't care. But if it's one of you guys, I get real competitive pretty quickly.
Yeah, I feel like for me, it's like if somebody is competitive, then I'm competitive against them. But you know, for like somebody who isn't super competitive, then I don't care so much. But like when you're trying to beat me at the Ninja Warrior, like I'm gonna beat you. That's what it comes down to.
Arguably.
Yeah, I don't know if that's ever happened.
I think it was 50-50 because I beat him through one course and then he beat me through the other. So we're still.
Yeah, it's all we've been pretty close. Like
all three of us have been real close.
See, and I like things like that because riding wise, especially, you guys just are better than me. That's just the way it is. Like I could never do.
But both of you can make it through a set of dirt jumps first try, and I probably can't.
Your risk tolerance in everywhere else in life besides bike riding is so funny.
It's so weird. Because I mean, I think I've talked about it before, but like I just know the consequences because I've crashed riding so many times. So I just know like I need to keep it under this limit or I'm gonna eat shit and it sucks.
Too predictable.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
versus
not unknown enough.
Yeah.
And we compare it to sledding where like we don't know the boundaries for that, so we can push that. Ninja Warrior, like we're so far below any real competitive
like good
nature,
people,
but that's what's great about it.
And it's a pretty safe environment. You're on an airbag and all that.
Feels that way, but I've seen.
I've slammed pretty hard too, but yeah, JT I think is taking the worst slam.
Yeah.
Where he just like missed the foot and just slammed his face on the ground.
Yeah. Pretty solid.
I wasn't there for that one.
Yeah, we're all like beginners and we're starting this thing and that's fun. And some of the other stuff where that maybe is more extreme, but it's high consequence but low risk. Like and you know, it's similar.
We've talked about that a lot.
We've talked about it, but we don't need to go into
I think it's just so funny. Like, the other day I played Brian in a game of bike, and the amount of competitive nature that came out in me so quickly where I was just like, you could literally, I think we even commented on it at some point in the video drop of us playing bike, where we both came out of the gates with, like, trying to be gentle, because we knew if one of us goes for blood, we're both just going to go for blood. It's going to be a disaster. So we both kind of started off a little too easy, and then one of us would go for blood, and then it's like,
not one of us.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden it went like, I'm sure if you watch like a graph of the intensity, it's like kind of mellow, and then a huge spike where one of us took it to a level that was like, all right, I'm ready to fucking win this. And then the other person was like, all right.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden we immediately both backed off the throttle like 80%. Like, let's both calm down.
Let's have a good game of bike.
Yeah, before we hurt each other.
Yeah.
Man, I feel like we've had a lot of wonderful times doing BMX, doing a lot of stuff like that. But I'm really interested in kind of what you are up to for the future. You mentioned that you and your fiance just bought this house. Most people probably don't know that that's actually a really recent term, fiance, for you. That's a really cool story. I really enjoy that tale anyways, and I really haven't heard the whole thing. Let's hear a little bit about that.
Well, it's kind of a funny story. I thought a little bit on the way over here, like how truthful I was going to be about the full story.
100% true.
100%. So it's funny because Jackie and I, in our relationship, we've been dating for like 12
Yeah.
years now. And so it's kind of a different type of relationship because like we didn't have, like the typical when you start dating somebody when you're 25 and you're like, oh, you're really like, there's like you're really excited about them. You have like the whole cutesy time and then you kind of get sick of them and then you're like, all right, this is going to work out. And then you get excited about marriage. Like we've been dating for so long that it's like, we're pretty like steady state now. Like everything's great. We really like each other. Everything's good. And so I was fairly content with, how things were going. Marriage is awesome for everything that it is, but honestly, there's a lot of complexity in the process that I'm not as excited about. And so that I wasn't as excited about, I should say.
Ooh, look at that adjustment on the fly.
Yeah, wasn't as excited about. And so it was funny because, of course we like had these conversations about marriage and I'm like, like I don't care about marriage. Like if we just call ourselves married today, like it's whatever. I don't really care for the process or whatever. She's like, oh yeah, blah, blah, blah. And then, she moved in a couple of years ago. And so like, after a few months moving in, she's like, all right, so when do you think we'll get married? And I'm like, I don't know, like, probably the next year or two, whatever, kind of. And then like a year rolls around and I hadn't been thinking about it because I'm a guy and that's not really what the thing. I've got a lot of things going on and we're having a great time. Like we're like, we went to Canada and we went to Australia and like things are going really good. And, she like made some jokes about Australia, like, oh yeah, well, like everybody did, like, oh yeah, well, you're going to propose in Australia, you're going to propose in Australia.
That's a quick way, ladies, by the way, to make sure that they don't propose.
So I'm like, I'm not going to propose in Australia, obviously. And then I'm like, but I didn't really think any more than, like, I didn't think any further of it than I'm not going to propose in Australia. It wasn't like, I'm not going to propose in Australia, but I'm going to propose. It was more like, I'm not going to propose in Australia. That's it. That's all I thought about it.
Yeah, too obvious.
They'd see it coming.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so...
pretend that we surprised you.
Yeah, and so we got back from Australia, and that was about a year and a half or whatever, a year after our conversation where I had offhand said a year or two, right? And so then we get back from Australia.
You didn't realize you were speaking in promises.
I didn't. Yeah. And so I got back from Australia and, it was like a couple weeks went by and we had a great time. Everything was awesome. And then Jack's kind of like, yeah, so like, what's going on here, bro? Like, get your shit together.
I can literally picture her saying that verbatim.
Yeah, and it was more, it was less like, are you going to get your shit together? And it was more like, all right, well, I'm going to start planning the wedding now.
Yeah. It was more telling you that it's happening than asking for it to happen.
Like I said along the whole time, like I've got nothing, like I want to get married in the way that like I am excited to spend the rest of my life with her, less in the way that like I'm really excited to spend all my time planning a big party. Yeah. But she was like pretty serious about this, and so I'm like, all right, well, I better really get my shit together, right? So then I like start thinking about it, like, oh, am I gonna propose? What am I gonna do? And then something happened. She like wanted to go look at this venue or something, like the wedding venue, and I'm like, just slow the fuck down. Like there's no rush here. Like we can do it. And she's like, oh, well, we've got it. And then, of course, it's always something like they'll give you 20% off if you go see it and book it now, or like some type of a sale, right? Like,
there's got to be an incentive,
yeah. And so she's like, so we're going to go and look at it. And I'm like, all right. And so in the meantime, I had like started talking to a jeweler and I like came up with a design for a ring that I wanted and like all this stuff. But having a custom ring made doesn't happen overnight. Yeah. And so I'm like, all right, well, like, why don't we wait a couple weeks before we like tell all our friends and stuff? And she's like, oh, okay, yeah, well, I kind of already told, and then the list starts and like, she's like, yeah, well, I was like talking to my mom about it, talking to my dad about it. I was like, well, I want to talk to your dad about it. Like, what, you went and told your dad
Yeah, you saw me downriver?
Yeah. And she's like, yeah, well, I didn't think you'd ever. I was like, what do you mean you didn't think I'd ever go talk to him?
In all fairness, you'd said you didn't care. That's the whole tricky part of the situation.
Yeah, exactly. It's a bit of a odd from both sides. It's all a bit
of a mess.
Yeah. And so, anywho, as it turned out, I finally got the ring. ring. We had already seen a wedding venue at that point. It was no big surprise to anybody, but I took her on a really cute date that we've done before, like down in Denver, and then I, got down on one knee and did the whole thing, and we took the cute pictures with the ring and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And it was adorable. It was
totes
really fun.
adorbs, you guys.
Yeah. And so, no, I'm really excited for like getting the wedding stuff together and starting to plan all that, obviously dragging my feet the whole way, but it's been fun. It's been fun so far.
Yeah, once you're in it, it's so funny because I'm so grateful that Allie surprised.
Because you didn't have to be in it.
Well, that's so funny is like I'm the only guy that was way more excited about planning the party than Allie was, right? Like, literally within some amount of time in the first year of us dating, I was like, we could do this for our wedding. We could do this. I want to invite these people.
Your idea was a slip and slide down the aisle, so.
Which is still amazing.
It's still on the table. I'm not.
Because,
you didn't get to do it. So.
I know. So the idea being, her dad is like, he's an engineer. He's a very cut and dry guy, incredibly fun and funny. But
him and I got along well.
But from a distance, you would never realize there was that because he's a classic engineer. Like, he wears a plaid button up and some regular jeans, and he just is a software engineer. And I just loved the idea. All I could think about was forcing this guy to slip and slide down the aisle because he would do it for her. And I was like, what a funny moment. The rest of his life, there's no way he wouldn't laugh thinking about this like weird moment of being uncomfortable and having to slip and slide in front of a bunch of people down an aisle to give away his daughter. Like it'd be this weird forcing kind of a moment versus Allie was much more classy in her design of the wedding. I think it was all for the best.
Yeah. A lot better than if you had planned it yourself.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think one of the bridesmaids specifically mentioned it in their toast was that they mentioned 3 things they were grateful for, which is what we do at dinner every night. And the third thing she was grateful for was that I had nothing to do with the planning process. So I get it. Yeah, I think I'm mostly just excited because knowing your guys' kind of relationship over the last decade, I think it's so fun that you get to finally celebrate it in a giant public way.
Right.
I think that's the fun part because, like you said, you guys were already essentially married. Like, you guys had the relationship to the point of, like, we're committed forever. This is what we're in for. And then it almost seems like extra baggage to
do we have to?
Yeah, exactly.
No, but it will be. It'll be super fun. Like, it's like, just like you said, like we already had the relationship part of it, and we're super happy with each other and super excited about the future and all that. And so now it's fun to do it, have a big party about it and tell all our friends and, all that.
And as one of the hopeful attendees, I'm excited for the wedding.
What do you mean hopeful attendees? We've already got.
You got to save the dates, right?
We've already been invited.
Allie's gotten it. It's probably on the fridge, honestly.
Yes,
I think your name was probably on it.
Yeah,
it probably had fancy text on it.
Yeah, that was
it.
Honestly,
it said Gavin, Allie, and Bill.
I know that's honestly one of my favorite things about Allie surprising everyone at the wedding. Because all money is our money now. We didn't spend any money on sending out paper invites or like save the dates or like stationery. It was all just this awesome YouTube video that she made. Well, that being said, we're basically at a full podcast here. We like to wrap up with the same question every single time. It's just a nice place to end. When you think of the word joy or joy quota, what comes to mind? It doesn't have to be a good story or anything elaborate. It's just literally a fun place to end. It's just like, when you think of the word joy, what comes to mind? What springs?
It's kind of funny because I've been kind of thinking about it all day, what I was going to answer to this question. But we've really kind of covered, like I was going to, talk about Jackie and the engagement and all that stuff because that's really nice. And then, like, all the BMX stuff and, like, all the adventuring stuff. Like, I feel like, like you guys, we all kind of try and base our life around joy and like doing what we can to maximize joy. Like it's not necessarily about maximizing money or time or whatever. Like it's about having a good time with whatever it is that you're doing. And so, yeah, I feel like we've talked about it all already. Sorry.
That's the most Brian Banghart appropriate answer I can imagine. Nothing would make me happier than we've addressed it. I don't feel like readdressing the issue.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, no, I love
That's
it.
the entire hour and a half
Right.
last
Yeah.
we talked. So
Man, I am so grateful you were able to join us today. We've been hoping to get you on the podcast since day one, so we're super pumped to have you. Does everyone feel like they're in a good place? Everyone got what they needed? Anything anyone wants to ask or share? Speak now, forever hold your peace.
I think we're good.
Yeah, I don't have anything else. I'm glad to be on. Appreciate it. Thanks, guys, and look forward to seeing where this all goes.
Me too, man. Just got 100 views on Spotify, or like listens on Spotify and iTunes. So first milestone accomplished. Real fired up.
Well
till
done.
next
By the
time.
time this airs, it'll be like 105 at least.
Yeah,
At least. Yep. For sure.
I love it.